These are the readings for the junior final exam. The first one is a passage adapted from the story The Flowers of Shiraz by Goli Taragi in 2013. Okay. This passage is set in Tehran, Iran in 1953, and The Flowers of Shiraz is a teenage dance group. Gold Miriam is a schoolmate of other young characters in this passage. Finally, with fear and foreboding, she agrees. She says she will come early and leave early. Maybe I'll come with my father, she says. Forget it. Are you nuts? Your dad on a bicycle with us? She laughs and hangs up. Wednesday afternoon, right on time, she arrives at Zafarnia Street with her chauffeur, Javad Aga. He doesn't have a bicycle. He dismisses Javad Aga and stands next to me like someone who has never seen a street, a car, or creatures with two legs. She's afraid of crossing the street. She screams and grabs a hold of the back of my bicycle. Our group consists of a few classmates, 2 of the Flowers of Shiraz, so far all girls, 2 of my cousins, boys, and 2 of the neighborhood guys, Homayan and Parvez. Gold Miriam feels out of place. She regrets having come, but she has no way back. She is happier with her father. The jokes, the pranks, the screaming and shouting, and everything we talk about is new to her. She doesn't understand our language. Worst of all, she doesn't have a bicycle. She climbs up behind me. She fidgets. She's scared and wants to get off. At the corner, she jumps off before I have time to stop. She loses her balance and falls. We stop. The cousins start grumbling. Gold Miriam has scratches on her hands and her knees, and she is limping. Parvez holds her under the arm. He takes out his handkerchief and ties it around her knee. The Flowers of Shiraz smirk and snicker out of spite and jealousy. Parvez's bicycle is large. We put Gold Miriam behind him. He is clumsy and shy and doesn't know what to do with her hands. She is holding her legs out and away from the back wheel, and she won't sit tight against Parvez. I'm sure they will fall. We set off. I hear Gold Miriam scream, but I don't look back. We speed down the incline of Bagi Ferdows. Parvez overtakes everyone. Gold Miriam, her eyes wide with fear and her mouth open and ready to scream, is staring straight ahead. She wraps her arms tight around Parvez's waist. The wind is blowing through her hair and under her skirt. The Flowers of Shiraz are still smirking. The narrow alley and back roads of Elian are filled with pleasant shadows. We stop in front of Mani Gardens. There is a wide stream that flows at the foot of the garden walls and under the trees. The water is cool and clear. It comes from Miss Faradul's reservoir. We take off our shoes, put our feet in the stream, and wash our face and hands. Gold Miriam's face is flushed and she's panting. She pats some water on her face, and then she too takes off her shoes and dips her feet in the stream. The Flowers of Shiraz splash water on each other and chase after one another. It is a pleasant game on such a hot day. Gold Miriam hides behind a huge tree. I think she will start crying at any minute now. But no, she hops from behind one tree to the next and splashes water on Parvez and laughs. We ride out to Rumi Bridge and turn back. We make plans to go to Tarish's Bridge the Friday night. The first non-fiction passage is adapted from Lori J. Kesey's Blacker Than Black from December in 2010. The second passage, which we'll read in a minute, is adapted from Clifford A. Pickover's A Physics Book from the Big Bang to Quantum Resurrection, 250 Milestones in the History of Physics, and that was in 2011. Passage number 1 of the nonfiction. Black is black, right? Not so. According to a team of NASA engineers now developing a blacker than pitch material that will help scientists gather hard to obtain scientific measurements or observe currently unseen astronomical objects, like Earth-sized planets in orbit around other stars. The nanotech-based material now being developed by a team of 10 technologists at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, is a thin coating of a multi-walled carbon nanotubes, tiny hollow tubes made of pure carbon about 10,000 times thinner than a strand of human hair. Nanotubes have a multitude of potential uses. particularly in electronics and advanced materials due to their unique electrical properties and extraordinary strength. But in this application, NASA is interested in using the technology to help suppress errant light that has a funny way of ricocheting off instrument components and contaminating measurements. This is a technology that offers a lot of payback, says engineer Leroy Spar, who is addressing its effectiveness on the Ocean Radiometer for Carbon Assessment, or ORCA, the next generation instrument that is designed to measure marine photosynthesis. It's about 10 times better than black paint, typically used by NASA instrument engineers to suppress stray light, he says. The technology works because of its super absorption abilities. The nanotubes themselves are packed vertically, much like a shag rug. The tiny gaps between the tubes absorb 99.5% of the light that hits them. In other words, very few photons are reflected off the carbon nanotube coating, which means that stray light cannot reflect off surfaces and interfere with the light that scientists actually want to measure. The human eye sees the material as black because only a small fraction of light reflects off the material. The team began working on the technology in 2007. Unbeknownst to the group, the New York-based Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute also had initiated a similar effort and announced in 2008 that its researchers had developed the darkest carbon nanotube-based material ever made, more than 3 times darker than the previous record. Our material isn't quite as dark as theirs, said John Hogepin, the principal investigator leading the development team. But what we're developing is 10 times blacker than current NASA paints that suppress system stray light. Furthermore, it will be robust for space applications, he said. That is an important distinction, says Carl Stale, the Assistant Chief of Technology for Goddard's Instrument Systems and Technology Division. Not all technology can be used in space because of the harsh environmental conditions encountered there. It's the real strength of this effort, Staley said. The group is finding ways to apply new technology and fly it on our instruments. And then for passage 2, all man-made materials, even asphalt and charcoal, reflect some amount of light. But this has not prevented futurists from dreaming of a perfect black material that absorbs all the colors of light while reflecting nothing back. In 2008, reports began to circulate about a group of U.S. scientists who had made the blackest black, a super black, the darkest ever substance known to science. The exotic material was created from carbon nanotubes that resemble sheets of carbon, only an atom thick, curled into a cylindrical shape. Theoretically, a perfect black material would absorb light of any wavelength shined on it at all angles. Researchers at the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and Rice University had constructed and studied a microscopic carpet of these nanotubes. In some sense, we can think of the roughness of this carpet as being adjusted to minimize the reflectance of light. The black carpet contained tiny nanotubes that reflect only 0.045% of all light shined upon the substance. This black is more than 100 times darker than black paint. This ultimate black may one day be used to more efficiently capture energy from the sun.